Good evening, teachers and classmates. Now I'm going to present my research, the presentation of my research, which is going to be about the impact of technology in education. Generally, what I'm going to do is to analyze the already uh, done uh, research on this field in technology and education. I'm going to analyze and contrast the different articles that I have found regarding to the impact of technology. As number one, I have the research question that is how is the integration of technology transform teaching methodologies and learning outcomes in English language education, and what are the critical implications in this transformation, particularly in Latin America and Ecuadorian context. So in this case, I'm going to uh, try to contrast or try to find out the different implication that methodology has in the developing of English teaching in our context, like is in Ecuadorian context. For next, as number two is the objective of my study. In this case, the objective is to critically analyze the academic literature in the last 20 years regarding the transformative impact of technology on English language education. What my study seeks to is to define and classify the principal technology, the technological tools and methodologies used in ELE. Contrast, as I mentioned before, traditional English teaching approaches with technology enhanced practices. Finally, identify benefits, limitations, and contextual challenges of technology integration in Latin America, especially in Ecuador. Moving on to the research approach is the following, is that follows a qualitative research approach using a critical literature review to interpret, analyze, and synthesize findings from previous scholar work, technology and ELE. What is the research design of my study? In this case, the research is design is a critical thematic literature review, and it includes systematic identification of relevant sources, thematic categorization of findings like CALL, MALL, AILMS, methodologies like as flipped classroom and blended learning. On the other hand, we have a comparative and contrastive analysis of global versus Latin American Ecuadorian evidence. We're going to contrast and analyze a little bit the differences between those contexts. A critical interpretation of convergences, discrepancies, and contextual pedagogical implications. What is the setting and who are the people you will study? Since this is a literature review, the setting is not physical location, but rather than the academic and methodological context published in research. The participants or population are the peer review studies themselves. As I mentioned before, I'm not going to make my own research. What I'm going to do is to review the literature already done. We're going to contrast, analyze different contexts, different points of view of these authors. What methods do you plan to use to collect data? I'm going to develop this through document analysis on scholarly literature. How I'm going to do this? The following. I'm going to research databases such as Scopus, Web of Science, um, ERIC, and Google Scholar, using keywords related to technology, as that I mentioned before, the ones previously, also gamification, blended learning, and Latin America. Uh, Applying inclusion, exclusion criteria to ensure relevance, academic rigor, and contextual sustainability. Suitability, I'm sorry. Technology advances these days. Learning technologies are critical to education today and will likely remain important in the future. Scholars determine the best way to move forward. Scholars use offer a combination of distance, face-to-face learning. This is like a final thought that I wrote in order to close my presentation. Um, Also, the final one, that is how will you analyze the data, uh, is the following. Data analyzed through thematic, comparative, and critical synthesis, synthesis, including thematic coding, grouping finding into categories, cross-study comparison, identifying comprehensions, discrepancies, and contextual variations, critical evaluation, examining methodological strengths, weaknesses, and implications for practice and policy. Contextual interpretation, contrasting global evidence with challenges typical of Latin America and Ecuador. So my tutor advised me to make a comparative in which I'm going to analyze the different categories and also the different criteria I already mentioned here. So this is the way I'm going to analyze the data, and at final I'm going to write down like a summary and final thoughts and conclusions in order to um, end up my presentations. That's it for my presentations. If you have any comments or suggestions, I will be glad to follow, and thank you for your attention.